Hi, good evening. This is Miss P, and I'm going to be reviewing lesson one for my seventh graders. So, in lesson one, began this on yesterday, which was Tuesday, and we wrapped this up today on Wednesday. This lesson, the title is Arithmetic with Whole Numbers and Money and Variables and Evaluation. So, in this lesson, you had four main objectives. The very first one is you should be able to distinguish between counting or natural numbers and whole numbers. That's the first objective. Second objective, identify four fundamental operations of arithmetic and their application and problems. Third objective, express dollars and cents correctly. And the fourth objective was to evaluate an expression with variables when the variables are assigned specific values. Now, there's some new language that we ran across, and we're going to talk about those throughout the lesson. And you'll see that some of them have been highlighted because we probably talked about them in class, but also I'll put an asterisk or a star by them also, just so that you know that these are our math language, words that we should definitely know as part of our vocabulary. So let's get into it. We're not going to talk about the power because we did this actually in class just to get our brains jumping, but definitely pay attention in the morning so that you can get in on the mental math. But we're going to get into our problem solving and talking about our vocabulary, and then we're going to do some examples together, which hopefully will help you with completing your exit ticket as well as your homework. So, as you see on this page, which I'm on page 6, all right. The very first word that we ran across is sequence. Now, a sequence is a list of terms that's arranged according to a certain rule. So, in order for us to find the rule of the sequence, we need to extend it. Okay, so we have to extend it out. No, let me take that back. Not so much as extend it out, but we must find the rule in order to extend it. So, kind of flip that up. Okay, so if we find the sequences rule, we're actually finding the pattern. So say for instance down here, like we did on yesterday, we found the pattern that this example was doing. So here in this example, we started off with 1, then we had 3, then we went to 6, then we went to 10. But how did we get from 1 to 3? Or how did we get from 3 to 6? How did we get from 6 to 10? And so forth. Okay. So as you see, we started off with 1 pebble. Then that 1 grew by 2 more. Then that 3 grew by 3 more. And then that 6 grew by 4 more. So as we looked it up, we saw we were adding 2. Then we added 3. Then we added 4. So the pattern is we're adding, kind of elevating by our counting numbers, right? Plus 2, plus 3, plus 4. Then if you look further down, you'll see that it was plus 5, plus 6, plus 7. So then that meant our next numbers were 15, 21, and 28. All right? Because we have 1 plus 2 gave us 3. And then 3 plus 3 gave us 6. And then 6 plus 4 gave us 10. And then 10 plus 5 gave us 15. And then 15 plus 6 gave us 21. And 21 plus 7 gave us 28. Okay? So then on the next page, basically that was our example. So we're able to check ourselves and know that we were correct. So the new concept that we're using is our arithmetic with whole numbers and money. All right. So one of the things is that you should use braces. So when you see this in some of your homework, you'll know what that means. Use braces to enclose items in a set. All right. So, and you use the ellipsis to indicate a list that is infinite. All right. It goes on without end. So it continues. So that etc. Dot, 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 that etc. All right. That shows that this list continues on. All right. It's infinite. It doesn't have an end. So counting numbers are also called natural numbers. And just like it sounds, that's what it is. It's your counting numbers. So when you learn how to count, you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are your counting numbers. Okay. Next up is our whole numbers. Now, our whole numbers are our counting numbers, but also the number that includes zero. Okay. So our whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. All right. So the set of whole numbers does not include any numbers less than 0. Okay. So whole numbers cannot include any negative numbers. Okay. As well as it can't include the numbers that's between like 0 and 1. All right. So the four fundamental operations of arithmetic. So here is the next big objective, okay? So we've already accomplished, we know the difference between a counting number and a whole number. Remember, a counting number are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whereas the whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the difference between the two is that the whole number includes 0, while the counting numbers do not. All right. Now, the next objective. So, objective number 2. Our next objective is for us to be able to identify the four fundamental operations of arithmetic and their application in problems. So, the four fundamental operations of arithmetic are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. All right. So, in this lesson, we're using those four fundamental operations of arithmetic with regards to whole numbers and money. So let's get some practice in. So here we see that we have 50 cents. Now, with money, you must remember you have two ways of writing down your money, okay, the amounts of money. You can use a dollar sign or you can use the cent sign. So when you use the cent sign, you would look like this, 50 and then the cents, all right? When you use the dollar sign, which is different, and it's 50 cents, you're going to write 0.50, and then the dollar sign is going to be in the front. So 0.50 means 50 cents as well as 50 cents with a cents symbol. Okay. All right. So occasionally we'll see the dollar sign or you might see the cent sign, but sometimes they're used incorrectly. Okay. Now, here in this one, this sign is incorrect. How? Why is it incorrect? We see the decimal. I see the cent sign. But what happened? So this is literally incorrect because it uses the decimal sign and the decimal, excuse me, not the decimal sign, the decimal point with the cent sign. You can't use them both like that. All right. If you want to use the decimal, you need to use the dollar sign. If you're not using the decimal, then you use the cents. Okay. Next up is some more vocabulary. So the very next vocabulary word that you definitely need to write down is the word adding as well as sum. You need to know these words, all right? So you're adding, those are the numbers that you add. So say for instance, 5 plus 3 equals 8. 5 and 3, those are your add-ins, all right? Your sum is the result or your answer, okay? And I know we started writing on our notes, so you might have some of these notes already down for yourself. All right. So here are some examples, and as you can see, it's simple. Um, Addition that's being done in this first example. So an 8, all they're simply doing is adding. But make sure when you do add that you're lining up according to that place value. So your 1 should be here, your 10 should be here, your hundreds should be here. So if you line those numbers up correctly, you should come out with the correct answer if you're lining them up and adding them correctly. Okay. Same thing applies with money. But in this case, we must align the decimal points. So for this one, when we have $1.45, and then we have $6, which is up here, this is the same thing as 6.00. All right. And then we have 8 cents, and this is the same thing as 0.08. All right. So that is how we should align these up by the decimal points. Okay. And then once we do that, then we have them in the correct place value because they are aligned. And then we can add these up. Okay. All right. And then if, like I said, if we add them up correctly, line them up correctly, then our answer will be correct. Alrighty. So next big words that we need on big words, but yeah, big words vocabulary that we know. One is subtrahend, and the next one is minuend, as well as difference. All right. So make sure that you have these words noted. These are vocabulary words. So in subtraction, the subtrahend is taken from the minuend. The result is the difference. So remember your difference. This is your answer when subtracting. Okay. All right. And then in this case, this is the number that you're going to, this is where you would start. So say for instance, this is your minuend, this is your subtrahend, and your answer, which is this, would then become the difference. Okay. Same thing applies here. This is your minuend, this is your subtrahend, and then this would be the difference. And I'm actually going to go back and put those in a different color so that you can see that difference. All right. Okay. So again, make sure that when you are subtracting, same things apply. Make sure that you are aligning those digits according to place values. Start off with your ones, then your tens, then your hundreds and your thousands. But make sure they are aligned correctly so that you can come out with the correct answer. Even with your subtraction, your decimals should still align. So make sure those decimals are in the correct spot. Decimals on top of each other and the numbers will flow right underneath. That way, when you are subtracting, your answer will fall right into place and all you're doing is bringing down your decimal. All right. So we talked about addition. We talked about subtraction. Let's get into multiplication. So the next big words that we definitely need to know, one is factors, and the next is product. Now, your factors, these are the numbers that you multiply. Okay? All right. And then the answer that you get is your actual product. So this is the answer when multiplying. So you'll receive a product when you multiply. Now there's different ways that you can write a multiplication um, problem. So you can say 4 times 5 with an X. You can say 4 times 5 with the dot. All right, that's right in the middle. You could say 4 times 5 using the parentheses and put that parentheses around one number. All right. Or in this case, you can say AB, which is an expression that means A times B. All right. You can't write 45 because all that does is just represent 45. But if you're using letters, then you can put them side by side because then it does mean 4 times A or A times B. But if you put 4 and 5 by each other, such as this, if you wrote 45, all that does mean is 45. We don't understand that you want us to multiply that. Okay? All right. So in this case, in these examples, here we are, we're multiplying. So we have 164 times 23, which has been done for you here. You have $4.68 times 20, which was done for you here. And then you have 5 times 29 cents, which is done for you right here. Now, in this case, you'll see where they didn't put the 5 on top, they put the 29 cents. When multiplication, you can adjust to make sure that you have um, the numbers in a good position so it's easier for you to multiply. So you need your longest number at the top. So make sure that you do pay attention to that. All right. So you can multiply 29 cents by 5 or write 29 cents out as the dollar sign point 29. All right. First. So since the product is greater than 1, you need to use the dollar sign when answering. Okay. So make sure, since if that product is greater than 1, use your dollar sign. All right. So that is multiplication. Now the last operation is division. So in division, the dividend is divided by the divisor. I know that's a lot of D's, okay? But in division, the dividend is divided by the divisor. The result is the quotient. So we can indicate division with the division sign, like we usually do, or we can do it with the division box, or with the division bar. So there's three ways: sign, box, or bar. And all three ways have been shown, okay? You have your sign, which is the dividend divided by the divisor equals your quotient. Or the box has the divisor, which is here, and the dividend and your quotient, your answer goes on top, okay? So your divisor, which you see right here, this number here, which is your second number that you would see when you're using the sign, would actually now become first, okay? So your divisor, your dividend, and then your quotient. On the other side over here, you have your division bar. And in the division bar, you have your dividend on top divided by your divisor, which equals your quote. So let's look at these examples. So in A, they're using the division sign. All right. And when they do that, no, it's not so easy to divide. So you end up still resulting with the division box as they did down here. So in the division box, all you're simply doing is um, dividing, okay? But you're looking at 56 and you're asking yourself, okay, 56, how many times can it go into 1? That it can't. All right, so that's a 0. Then you look at 12. How many times can 56 go into 12? That, nope, can't do that either. That's a 0. So then you look at 56 going into 123, which it can 2 times, which gives you 112. You subtract 123 from 112. That leaves you with 11 left. You take another 56, get that 56 and 11 equally. So you bring down that 4. So once you do that, you have 114. How many times can you get 56 out of 114? That's 2 more times, which then gives you 2 times 56 being 112, and you have 2 left. So now you know that your answer is 22 with the remainder of 2. And remember, this R means remainder. So this is your leftover. All right. Okay, so in this division, there is a remainder, all right? And so in other methods later on, we're going to talk about how we can deal with the remainder later on, like if there are different ways to write it and things like that. So, but we'll talk about that later, all right? And then in the next one, in B, they have it with the division bar, okay, which kind of looks like a fraction. And in this case, you still end up in the same area. Here you have your divisor. Here you have your dividend. And the same thing applies. Here you have your dividend. And here you have your divisor. All right. And you work out it the same way. Even though you have this decimal, I want you to be reminded that decimal place just needs to be brought up so that it still lands right here. So it still stays aligned with that answer. So here would be your quotient or your answer after you finish doing your division. And you would then still put that dollar sign in front of it because you have a dollar sign in your question. All right. So make sure that your quotient has that dollar sign. The decimal point should be directly above the decimal point in the dividend. So your quotient decimal point should be in the exact same location as the dividend decimal point. All right. So that takes care of division. So objective number 3. All right. Now, in this objective, we're getting into talking about our variables and expressions. And I apologize. This is actually objective number 4. We've actually already kind of accomplished objective number 3, because in objective number 3, we talked about using the dollar sign and cents sign correctly, which we have. So our last objective is that we're going to talk about the proper use of variables and evaluations. So we're going to evaluate an expression with variables when the variables are assigned specific values. So looking at these examples in mathematics, just like it says at the top, letters are often used to represent numbers. All right, they are called. We have the words variables, and we also have the word evaluate. All right. These are important. Now, letters are called variables. So X, Y, A, B, C, when you see those, R, S, T, when you see those letters, those are called variables because their values are not constant. All right. They vary, basically. That's why it's variables. All right. And then we evaluate an expression by calculating its value when the variables are assigned specific numbers. So when we evaluate, that just simply means we're about to solve it by doing some substitution, but we're going to calculate the answer. So in example number 5, it simply says evaluate each expression for x equals 10 and y equals 5. So every time we see an x, we're going to put 10, and every time we see a y, we're going to put a 5. So just like it says, a is x plus y. So that means that's the same thing as saying 10 plus 5, which if we evaluate it, that means we need to solve it, which is 15. Okay? Substitute first, then solve by calculating. B says x minus y. So remember, x is 10 minus y, which is 5. And then once we evaluate it, 10 minus 5 is 5. C says x and y. X is 10, y is 5. We can't leave it like this because that looks like 105, right? But ultimately, this is saying the same thing as x times y. So I need to do the same thing. I need to say 10 times 5, which equals 50. Okay? And then the last one, D, is x over y. All right? So that is our division, which says x is 10, y is 5. 10 divided by 5 equals 2. All right? So again, that takes care of us and variables. Now, I know you guys had this for homework, so I'm going to briefly go over the responses with you guys to show you your answers for the homework problems. And then from there, I will leave you with this for today on these questions. I will also be getting into Eureka Math in the next video, but I know that some people still have some issues with that, so I will put that video up tomorrow with tomorrow's Eureka's homework. Okay, so our answers for our homework are as follows. A says this sign is incorrect. Show 2 ways to correct the sign. So the very first thing is that it has what? It has the decimal with the cent sign. So the very first thing we should have it like this per glass, or we can say Oops, sorry. Or we can say 45 cents per glass. All right. Next one says, B says, name a whole number that is not a counting number. And remember, your counting numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the whole number includes 0. And 0 is not a counting number. All right. C. C says, when the product of 4 and 4 is divided by the sum of 4 and 4, what is the quotient? Explain how you found your answer. So the product of 4 and 4 is the same thing as, just like I have right here, because I think I talked about this one. The product of 4 and 4 says that we should say 4 times 4, which is 16. And remember, this is going to be divided by the sum of 4 and 4. And the sum of 4 and 4 is 8. So when we say 16 divided by 8, that means our answer is 2. And if you wrote down these nice little methods on how I did this, as far as your explanation, then that's your explanation. You explained it. All right. Product of 4 and 4 is 16. The sum of 4 and 4 is 8. 16 divided by 8 equals 2. Explain how you found that answer out. All right. Then the next part says simplify by adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing as indicated. So D, you guys should have $5. Everyone, excuse me, not you guys. You should have $5.35. E, you should have $1.53. F, you should have $3.25. G is 6,000. H is $4.80. And I is 13. If you got any of these wrong, go back, look at it. If you need further explanation, I'll be more than happy to explain it to you. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to write down the answers to our homework. And if you did not get it correct and you're unsure why or what did you do wrong, after you look at the correct answers, please let me know. All right. So next part says evaluate each expression for A equals 20 and B equals 4. So for wherever I see a A, I'm going to put in a 20. And wherever I see B, I'm going to put in 4. So here J says 20 plus, I'm sorry, 20. J says A plus B, which is the same thing as 20 plus 4, which is 24. Because remember, I need to evaluate. All right. K says A minus B, which is 20 minus 4, which is 16. And L says A times B. All right, because remember when we put those two variables next to each other, that means time. So we're multiplying. So I'm going to say 20 times 4, which is 80. And then M is A over B, which is 20 divided by 4, which is 5. All right. Now, next up, it says write equations using the number 15, where 15 is an added. So, and 15 is an added means I'm going to say 15 plus 5 equals 20. Remember, added means it is being added. It's one of the numbers being added. All right. Oh, the product, meaning it should be our answer when multiplying, right? So we could say 5 times 3 equals 15. This time it should be our quotient, right? So quotient is dividing, and it's the answer that we should get when dividing. So I can say 30 divided by 2. The subtrahend, all right? Remember, the subtrahend is the number that we have when subtracting, okay? So I can say 20 minus 15 equals 5. The dividend. Now, remember, the dividend is the big number that you would have, or your top number, all right, when you're subtracting. So remember, let's say 15 divided by 3 equals 5. So that's my dividend, all right. And then last but not least, my minuend. And when I have that one, that is now my first number. So 15 minus 5 equals 10. So, like I said, here I have explained all of those. All right. So for homework, this is what we did today. So I'm not gonna talk about that. We'll talk about that some more because we need some more practice on that one. But for homework, that is due Thursday. You guys are working on the odd numbers on the written practice on lesson one, which begins at page 11. You're gonna do that from 1 till 29, which ends on page 12. Remember, you can visit goformative.com and log in with your Concordia NOLA email. You're going to sign in to Google. Log in with your concordianola.com email using your email and password. And then you guys should see your M7 homework. That is for 18, 8, 19, 20. All right. Get that homework done. Remember, homework is due by 7:40 a.m. on Thursday. Please turn in your homework. If you have any questions or concerns, call Miss B. You know my number, 504-290-9037. Thank you so much for joining me today, and you guys have an awesome rest of your evening and a great and blessed night. Bye bye.